Paigow tile has 32 tiles. It has 11 identical pairs, which look the same, and then also 5 unidentical pairs, which is pair when played together but looks differently. One of the highest pair is the supreme pair, which is the considered the joker, called Jijun. It plays together as a pair is considered the supreme pair and is the highest pair. But when played separately, it would be the lowest ranking tile. It will be played as 3 or 6. Make sure you memorize all the ranking in order, because the ranking does make a big difference when it comes to which hands will be higher or not. So as you can see here, the one that's circled is actually the 5 identical pairs. The first one is the Jijun, and the rest of the bottom 5 pair is pair of 9s, pair of 8s, pair of 7, and pair of 5s. And the rest are identical pairs. So make sure you memorize the rankings. As you can see here is a ranking by pairs. The highest pair is the supreme pairs, which is the Jijun, considered the joker, and it's the highest pair when played together. And the lowest pair we see here is the pair of 5s. So after the pairs, in ranking we will be playing with the combinations. The combinations are wongs. Wongs are, you will be playing with a teen or a day combined with a 9, so that would be considered a wongs. And the next after wongs would be considered a gongs. Gongs are a teen or a day play with a high 8, which is a yun, or just a regular 8. And lastly, a high 9s, which is you play with a teen or a day with any of the 7. The long leg 7 or just a regular 7 would be considered high 9s. After pairs would be combinations of wongs, gongs, and high 9. After that, we'll have to memorize the individual ranking of each tiles. Notice that the teen will be the highest, and then the Jijun is actually the lowest. So Jijun, when it is together as the pair, will be the highest supreme pairs, but individually, Jijun will be the lowest ranking tiles, and teen will be highest. So remember to memorize your ranking, because it does make a difference in to decide which hand will be higher. For example, a yun with a 6 is considered a 4 high 4, and then a gore and a 10 is also a 4. In this case, since the yun is higher ranking than a gore, yun 6 is higher than gore and 10, even though both are 4s. So lastly, we add the numbers together, and so if gore is 4 and then a 5 is 5, so together is a 9. And then we go by numbers, and then just remember when it comes to the banking, nothing, which is 0, 0, the banking has an advantage. There's no ranking, so if you copy with a bank with nothing, nothing, then the bank wins. Your objective in Paigow tile is always to make the hand as high as possible. So the lowest hand as high as possible and the highest hand as high as possible. But there are a few exceptions where you will notice that you will be splitting some pairs. And some of these pairs are Jijun, teen day, pairs of 9s, pair of 8s, which is yun and the 8, or pair of 7s, which is a long leg and regular pairs of 7s. And then there are some exceptions, so you will notice, and some of these exceptions you have to memorize. So there are some exceptions that house rules play, and in this case is the Jijun. So we only split pairs of Jijun when the other two tile is a 4 and a 5, or a 4 and a 6, or a 5 and a 6. So you can make a 7, 9, or 8-9 or 9-9. That's the only exception for you to split Jijeon. Otherwise, you would never split Jijeon, and just keep it as a. Split teens and days if you can make the hand at least 6, 8 or better. And also if there's a 9 and an 11. In this case, if you have a 9 and 11, the lowest combo hand for the small hand would be high 3, and the other would be wong, so it would be high 3 wongs. In this case, you see like gore and 8. If you split those, it will be 6 and then gong. And then, for example, it goes down. So these are some examples. We always split pairs of 9s, pair of 8s, which is yun, and pair of 8s, and then also pair of 7, which is long leg and regular pairs of 7, to make the hand 7 or better. With the rest of the pairs, pair of 4s, which is the gore and the bond, pair of 5s, pair of 6, pair of 10s, and pair of 11 we never split. So make sure you never split those pairs. This is one of Paigow exception case. Usually, if you can make the lowest hand a Cheung 3 or a long 3, then you don't have to soak. But if anything is lower than that, like this case, bond and high 9 is considered a low 3, which is not higher than Cheung 3, but this is a Paigow exception, so we can play bond 9 with a gong. If it was a bond and a 9 with a day and a 7, then we would definitely soak this one. But this one is an exception where you don't have to soak if it was lower than a Cheung 3. In this case, we cannot make a high Cheung or long 3. So this hand you have to soak. And then when you soak, you're going to try to make the highest hand as high as possible. Always balance the hand. So lowest with the highest, and then the second and the third highest together. If you cannot make the low hand a Cheung 3 or a long 3, then you have to soak. And then when you soak, you can try to make the highest hand as high as possible. In this case, since the Cheung and the 6 is just a 2, it's not a Cheung 3 or high 3, then you have to soak this. And then in this case, it will be 1, and then we have a high 7. So this will be the house way. This is a similar case where we have a Cheung and a 6, which is only 2. For you, in order not to have to soak, is you need a Cheung or a long to make a Cheung high long 3, which is going to be a Cheung and a 7. That's considered a Cheung high 3. Now, in that case, if you do have something that or higher, then you don't have to soak. But this case is only a 2, so you have to soak this one. So this would be 1 and high 9. And then you're going to try to make as high 9 on the higher kicker on the high 9 as high as possible. So we're going to play this as 1 high 9, I mean Cheung 9. This is one of the exceptions. In this case, we have 2 tiles that is pretty much in high ranking. The white 10 and then the gore. So since this both the kicker are pretty high, you don't want to waste the kicker, so you're going to separate these out. So you're going to play 4 high gore 5. So we don't have to waste the kicker. But if it's instead of the white 10, but it was a red 10, then we're going to play it the other way. We're going to play gore 4, which is going to be red 10 with a gore, and then we're going to make 11 with a 4 to make it a gore 4 and a 5. Remember, pairs are highest, and then combinations, which is wongs, gongs, and high nines, and then we are going to balance it out, which is going to be the lowest and the highest, and then we're going to have the second highest and the third highest together. And then we're going to balance those out, and then we always look for babies, which is small tiles, which is 4, 5, and 6, and combine those together to make like an 8 or 9 or 7. In this case, we do have a 3. An 8 and a 5 is 3, but it's not a high 3. It's not a Cheung 3 or higher, since an 8 kicker is lower than a Cheung. So in this case, we must soak. And it always soak is, you always make the highest hand as highest as possible. And the highest hand that we can make right now is a gore and a 5, which is 9. So this hand will play as 2, 9. So when reading hand, we always try to balance it out. Smallest with highest, and then second and third highest. In this case, the smallest is 7 and the highest is 9. And then the 2 second and third highest would be 8, and then Yun. But this is Bay 1-1 exception, so you have to memorize this hand. And the Bay 1 exceptions will play long leg 7 with Yun, which is going to be high 5, and then we're going to play 8 with a 9, 7. So this hand will be high 5, 7. This is one of Bay 1-1 exceptions because we have 2 very high kicker, the white 10 and a Yun. Both of them are pretty high kicker, so we don't want to waste the kicker. In this case, we're going to play 7, 9. Since this white 10 kicker is pretty high, if it's anything else, let's say instead of the white 10, you're going to have a red 10, or instead of a Yun, you just have a regular 8, then we do not play 7, 9. We're just going to balance out. We're going to play 8, 8. Otherwise, when you see 2 kicker like a white 10 and a Yun like that, you usually want to separate them to make so you don't waste the ranking. This is the case where we have 2 high ranking, the gore and the Yun. Since both of these hangings are pretty high, we want to separate it out so we can take advantage of the ranking. This is similar to white 10 and a Yun. When we see those together, we try to separate them together so we don't waste the tile ranking. This is one of the exceptions on the red 10 and the white 10. We always play the smaller with the white 10, but there's an exception. If there's an 8 and 9, you always put the 9 on the high ranking, which is it's going to be the red 8 and then a 9, white 10, 9. This hand, we are trying to take advantage of also the kicker too. We have a red 10, a Cheung, and a white 10. Since the Cheung and the white 10 kickers are pretty high, we try to separate them. But usually the case is we always play the smaller in the white 10s, with the exception of 8, 9, where you play the high 9. But if it was a red 10 and a white 10 and just regular 6, long leg 6, then we're gonna play the long leg 6 on the white 10, and then we're gonna play the higher like 7 or 8 on the red 10. So just try to memorize this exception. this is one of Paigow exceptions. For it to be balanced, the balance hand was, if you balance this hand, it would be 8-8, but this is an exception. As for Paigow, we're going to play Gore with a Cheung, which is going to be high 7, and then we're going to make 9, Bon, and 5. This is a Paigow exception, so you should memorize this one. You're going to play high 7, Gore, and then 9, so it would be 7-9. Instead of balancing out, it would be 8-8. So don't. This one would be play at 7-9. This is also an exception hands where we're going to play the high hand as high as possible, which is going to be Cheung 9. Since we have the 11 is the decent kicker, they're going to play the long leg 6 with the 11. It's going to be 7, and then we're going to try to make the high hand as high as possible. It's going to be Cheung and Cheung, so it's going to be 7, 9. So this is Paigow exceptions, and you notice that most casino actually soak this hand, because since it's a low 3, it's not a Cheung high tone 3. Most casino actually soak this. They will play nothing 0, high 7, but this is Paigow exception. Paigow will not soak this hand. It's going to play as 3-4, so it's going to be a low 3 and then a 4. This is a similar hand as the 3-4 that we have earlier. This is the Paigow exception. Some other car room or casino, you notice they will soak this hand. It will be 1-7, 1 high 7. But Paigow will not soak this hand, so we'll be play as 3-5. Okay, so this is similar as the other two hands where most other car room and casino will soak it because they cannot make a Cheung 3 or high 3, long 3. But in this case, Paigow will not soak. Paigow will balance, so it's going to be playing as 3-6. Thank you for watching the video, guys. I'm sorry I actually didn't have time to do a more detailed videos. I'll try to do a better video next time when I have more time. But I just try to learn the basic first. The important thing is always memorize the ranking of the tiles, and then just learn the basic rules and exceptions, and then just look at more hands so you can get more exposure. But actually, this was how I learned tiles. I try to have this system where I can learn the tile by myself, because to be honest, to learn to deal and know all the house weight, especially when I don't play tiles, it's actually not that easy. But it's actually, once you have a system and you start practicing, it's actually not that hard, and it's actually a fun game. So hope you guys enjoy. If you have a comment for other people to help them learn better or anything, just leave a comment.